Okay, welcome everyone. I've got Philippa with me today to have a chat about her experience of learning to play guitar. We've been working together for around a year now, just over. So I wanted to sit down with Philippa and talk about her experience and the journey she's had so far. So thanks, Philippa. I appreciate you joining us today.
You're
And
welcome in.
cool. Let's start with. So firstly, I just wanted to ask you what was your motivation for learning to play the guitar?
Well, I've had a guitar since I was about 12, and it's been sitting in the corner of a room. When I pass it, I'm going back a year. Occasionally, I'll pick it up and I play the same chords, which are A and C, open, and then fiddle around trying to remember a tune, and then I go away again. So I've had it a very long time, and I'm now 70. So I thought it was about time I did it again, but I used to sing a lot. I went to a musical school and I sang with my guitar until I was about 15, 16. And I thought, you're wasting your time, do it properly. But I'd been singing in lockdown in a choir and had started singing again and loved it so much that the two really needed to be put together again. And I was just looking for a teacher and didn't find one. So that's where I was when I first saw your um, information about Django chords on
Okay.
the internet, and I thought this is very intriguing. So I went a bit further.
Okay, great. And what was the sort of the main reason you decided to work with me specifically?
Oh, the brilliant thing was you offered a one-to-one on Zoom, and we just chatted about what your course was like, how it differed, the process, the support. And I mean, that to me was exactly what I wanted to do. It was better than I'd hoped for, because otherwise it would have been a once a week, go down to the local town and meet someone and practice. And I know how bad I am at practicing. And so I thought this would be very motivating. And I think I signed up almost at the same moment you described it at the end of the conversation. You said, wait a month if you want, because you're busy. And I said, no, if I don't do it now, then I'll forget it. So I started straight away, probably a bit early, but that was the right thing to do.
Yeah, fantastic. And what's your experience been like over the last year?
Well, I've absolutely loved it. It's it's been even better than I'd hoped for. It makes me, because I look forward to the lessons so much, do a bit of practice. And I mentioned I'm not the great practicer. And it also helped me improve my relationship with my brother, who's away for the last 3 years since lockdown. We haven't seen each other, so we spend weekends sometimes FaceTiming and chatting. And this time, ever since this time last year, we have a guitar on our laps and we're chatting and we're playing and we're strumming, and it's been helpful for both of us, really helpful. And he's a very good guitar player, so he's always trying to teach me theory, which I've forgotten. And I pretend I know what he's talking about, I haven't got a clue. And then I go back to following your process and methods. So it's been a very interesting year, but great fun. And completely motivated by a Thursday lesson, which I can't always come to, but I'll always try and do, and practicing in between.
That's superb. Have you got together and played some songs together with your brother?
Well, yes, I tell him what I'm learning, and then he'll look up what the key it's in, and I'll tell him what I'm playing it in, and then he'll just jam along in the background, and then he'll usually move it to something else and start playing something completely different, usually bluesy, and we're off on his world, in his world. And I just think, well, let him go. It's what he wants to do. And then I go back to doing it my way when I've put the computer away. So, but yes, it has been incredibly good, because he's in a better place than he was 3 years ago, because he's had to shield, and he still believes he needs to.
Ah,
So yeah, he's got very low his immune suppressant. So it's been a very tough year for him, or 3 years for him. Not for me.
sure. Yeah, that's lovely that you can do that together and have that connection.
Yeah.
Really great. And do you remember what the first song you learnt was?
Learned is a really good word. I think it was about the time of Christmas, so we were doing things, Christmassy songs. So there was, I actually went, I started the process and I went to the white pick learning lessons and loved them. I thought they were just so helpful. So the first song I think I did from the white pick deliberately will have been something like Country Roads.
Yeah.
And then I looked for Leaving on a Jet Plane, and I think I learned that. And then I very quickly went on to Vincent, and everybody had to listen to Vincent the whole time, the whole of Christmas, the whole of New Year. And I just got it into my head and I learned it, which is rare for me. I have
Brilliant.
a bit of a memory problem. And my mother had Alzheimer's, and a lot of her family did. So I'm trying to improve my memory. To kind of protect me in a way. So learning music's a very, very good way, and languages and so on. So I try to remember it, but each song I learn, a week later I've forgotten it. So that's why I talk about practice. I have to practice and practice and practice. So Vincent, I probably couldn't do it now, but I could do it then. But if I picked up the music, I could play it, in half an hour's time. I could probably play it.
It would quickly come back.
Yeah. So those were the first ones I started on. So I did leak pretty quickly into yellow pick. But that was because I had a lot of experience of playing open chords from when I was in my teens, because I used to sing with a friend in harmony, sort of Everly Brothers stuff and folksy stuff. And we'd get up on the stage and we'd sing to the whole school. So I'd got that background of being able to play and pick, but I'd just completely lost it. So going back to some of your white picks, yellow picks, was just so good for me and so motivating. My voice got better. Immediately started to get better again. So that's why I say I've loved it.
Excellent. Superb. Do you know how many songs you would have learnt over the last year, roughly?
I know I've got involved in about 30. Learned them. I can't remember them, but I can play them with the music, yes. I would never be able to remember a single verse, I don't think, on my own without, staring at it. So yeah, I've probably played about 30 songs, some over and over again, and some, once or twice. Things like, look, in some of your lessons have included some really unusual songs for me. I've never really come across them. And I mean, case in point was the Oasis one I missed last Thursday. We were at a funeral, but the week before, I got up to learning the first part, the intro, and the chorus. I think we did, and I'll go back to that. I can't even remember what it's called. Yes, I can. The Master Plan.
The Master Plan, that's the one. Yeah, that's a weird one, because even with Oasis fans, it wasn't on an album, I don't think, and it wasn't released as a single. It was a B-side, and years later he regretted using it as a B-side because he thought it was one of the best songs he's written.
It's a very good song.
It's a bit of a secret song.
Yeah, because I'd never heard of it. I think the only Oasis song I ever knew was Wonderwalk, and it was always being played at work. And I'd open a door and it would be blasting out again. So I knew that, but I'm quite glad you haven't taught it to me. But I probably wouldn't come to the lesson. But I've enjoyed the discordant chords so much. They are just, it's such a, and I really enjoy playing that so far, the bit I know. And I'll catch up with your lesson at the weekend probably. So I've forgotten what you asked the question was. So what was the question?
Yeah, how many songs? So you kind of visited 30 of them and you learned them at the time and then moved on.
Yeah.
Is a great way to do it.
I'll go back to them. So I mean, you taught us the Pogues last year, and I'll go back to that in the next few days, because it's a real, and Mary's Boy Child, things like that, which I knew, but I didn't know the Pogue song very well, and to play that was great fun. So yeah, I mean, there are loads of songs that I've learned during the year, which I love playing. The Day Is Done. I'd never heard John Prine, and I really like that song. Things that just, The Parting Glass, hadn't come across that. So you really did sort of, tweak away at changing what interests me, because I would just sit and play Beatles stuff and Sounds of Silence. I love Brown Eyed Girl. I loved Hotel California. That was superb. And we played that, my brother and I, over and over again. So at the moment, I've got Norwegian Wood, Hallelujah, which is not a Leonard Cohen I knew very well. I've come across it and I love it now. Tried Beyond the Sea, and I tried to play it in French.
Oh,
and
nice.
the master plan. So those are the ones I'm on at the moment. Um,
Yes,
Thoroughly enjoying it.
that's a lovely set of songs, and they're all got their nuances to them, but not just sort of a set of chords. There's details in there and uniquenesses to
Yes,
each one, which is really nice.
I've got two on my list that in the next year I'd love to learn, and they're Blackbird and Here Comes the Sun, and they look far too difficult for me.
Phenomenal songs. Brilliant. Yeah, Here
I
Comes the
know.
Sun is very unique in terms of technique, but it is doable. None of the chords are particularly challenging, but it's the picking it at the same time. But we did, I think, that over two lessons, so it's about 2 hours worth of stage by stage, and there's some preparation things in there to get used to his way of picking for that song. He's quite
Mm.
well, extremely versatile guitar player. Um,
Yeah.
and then with Blackbird, that's just yeah. That I think you'd be ready for Blackbird. I would say already. Grace has been working on it a little while. Grace is in the States. She just posted it in the community, and that's great to hear.
Well, I'll go and find it. I'd love to listen to that.
Yeah,
I,
lovely.
I haven't dared do that yet. Maybe this time next year I will.
Yeah, no, if you were to put them in a sequence, I'd probably say Blackbird before Here Comes the
Here
Sun.
comes the sun. Okay, thank you for that.
But really lovely songs. Excellent. And what does your practice look like? You've covered a lot of material and some really intricate stuff as well. What are you picking the guitar up each day and for how
Yes.
long?
Well, with your help, I bought a second guitar because I keep the electric one in here in the study. So it's beside me, ready for the lesson. Then I realised I wasn't playing it often enough, and it's a bit of a palaver moving it. So I bought a little mini Taylor, which I adore. It's fantastic and easy to play because I've got a bit of arthritis in my hands. My thumb doesn't move because I've broken it in the past, and it's not very easy. My little finger won't bend properly. So although all the exercises I've done, they kind of they lay down in the wrong way. So this is a smaller neck, and it's just easier. So I put it out on its rest, but as I pass it into the kitchen. So I pass it so many times going to get cups of tea. I start in the morning with it and I play it for about 20 minutes before I set up for work. And then maybe at lunchtime I might pick it up again. The last couple of weeks, since football's been on, it's not been quite so easy to pick it up and play it because I'm disturbing the other half who's watching the footy. So I'm very pleased it's over. So yes, I will pick it up now during the day because it's in the right place. And I would recommend everybody to do, to leave a guitar where you trip over it and then you think, oh, I'll just disturb my work for 10 minutes and have a break. And it's really good for me. Otherwise, I'd never have breaks from work. I'd just be back on the computer.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great what it does in terms of just a moment of relaxation and
Mm.
just sort of centering yourself with the music and then back into what you're doing. I've noticed that with a few people who are working from home and just using it to sort of structure what they're doing with breaks, or they'll just carry on, there's a lot to be done. And yeah, I think that's a great idea. And I do that. I do that myself as well. I've got the guitar right next to me, and then I try to put one. I tried to put one in the lounge because we've got our Tulin, my 1.5-year-old, and I want her to be around music, and
Yes,
so
hear it.
pick it up when she's around and that kind of thing.
Oh, lovely. That would
Yeah.
be brilliant. We didn't have a musical household, really. We had a very old-fashioned gramophone that went on at weekends, and sort of Gilbert and Sullivan got played, and the odd Dvorak New World Symphony, which was a favourite, but no, kind of none of this.
Yeah, no, me neither. No, nobody in my family that I know of played any music. I don't really know where it came from with me. Just a gradual obsession.
Yes,
Um, uh,
becoming like with me.
cool. Oh, excellent stuff. That's great. And I just wondered, final thing is if you have any. Well, you gave some great advice with tripping over the guitar. Is there what advice would you offer to somebody who was, where you were a year ago?
I think be much more disciplined than I am. Stop trying to run before you can play the basic stuff. The Django chords, just concentrate on them. They're brilliant. They don't always sound quite what you expect them to sound like, but they are so helpful. I have never learned the proper G. I still use a folk G, but I've tried and tried, and Django has helped. Those chords have helped so much. So I think follow that absolute discipline of following the white and then the yellow pick systems. I had never learned to play with a plectrum, a pick, and I'm trying now. So I think do the strumming and practice that more. And don't do what I did, which was, keep leaping into a new song and then forgetting the one you did before, because that's the way I am. And practice more. Do it every day, probably, an hour if you've got the time, half an hour to an hour. And I didn't do that at school. I played the piano, and I never went and did an hour's practice. And I had to stop when I was 16, and because of exams. So yeah, that's my take on it. But of course, it's a different life for so many of us. I don't do it myself, so.
Yeah, no, it's good advice, definitely. And with your picking, before you jump into Here Comes the Sun, get comfortable using the pick for some strumming and things, a little bit more comfortable.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
but that's great advice, and it is most people's experience, and it's typical to be looking at a few songs. Like if you looked at a period of time like a year, which we are, to be looking at a lot of songs that you've jumped in and had to go out and maybe learned at the time that aren't top of mind now. But then also what you can do alongside that is have a small grouping of songs that you do retain, and just by practicing them, once a week, you're moving on, you're looking at different things, and you're picking the particular ones you want to keep with you, as well as a good way to do it. And or just have one that is your, I don't know if you'd call it a party piece. When somebody says, "Oh, you can play the guitar, can you show me something?" and you've got one that you've got it
Yeah,
ready, and you
that's
always
really
know what
good.
the one is.
I think I might do that with the Hallelujah, because it's a beautiful song and it's easy to pick. And it takes me back to my old picking style. I've got two files, one with everything I've learned and one which I play now. And I move things from the old one to the new one, and then they're going back. So then I can carry it around with me. So yeah, great advice. Thank you.
Superb.
I've
And
learned so many tricks from you, so many things that I did badly before, and now I do so much better.
you're doing great. And your folk G, it is a correct G. It's just a different way of doing it.
Thank you.
Definitely. It's got the notes we need, so it's
Yeah.
it's legitimate. Definitely. Oh, lovely stuff. Well, it's really good to speak to you, Philippa, and thanks for doing this. I appreciate it. And here's to another year of great progress, a
Thank
version of Blackbird, a version of Here Comes the Sun, and some other stuff as well.
Thank you very much, and thanks. And I'm delighted to go on for another year, maybe a year after that. Thank
Lovely
you.
stuff.